this team missed an opportunity? Wouldn't you feel like they are punting on 2026 if they only trade Eugenio Suarez ahead of the deadline? By trading all of these guys, what you do is you give yourself a chance in 2026. And that's all I've asked for this entire time. I am not going to give up on 2026 until I am given a reason to give up on 2026. And I think with a solid deadline where you trade all of these players, you prioritize players, prospects that have ETAs that are next season, perhaps players that can play right away this year or maybe early 2027. You prioritize players that are close to big league ready, if not already big league ready. You use whatever resources are available to you, and we don't know what that number is going to be, in the offseason to fill and patchwork some of the holes. You can be a competitive, relevant baseball team in 2026. I still think that is on the table. That is off the table if you don't get a solid return for all of these players. If you only trade Eugenio Suarez, if you choose to hold on to these other guys and go the qualifying offer compensatory pick route. That to me would be the first signal that 2026 is being flushed down the tubes. I'm not willing to go there yet until I'm given a reason to go there. This deadline is test number one. So for me personally, I would view this as a failure if they don't trade all of these players, if they don't prioritize a return for 2026, because all of these moves that I'm making along this chessboard right now are to try to keep winning in 2026. Why wouldn't you? Somebody give me a good reason why you wouldn't want to try to compete in 2026. While you have Corbin Carroll, while you have Ketel Marte, while you have Geraldo Perdomo, while you have Gabby Moreno behind the plate, while you have a young player like Jordan Lawler, and we don't know what Jordan Lawler is yet. We're not sure. It's all hypothetical. What we have seen at the big league level leaves a lot to be desired, but I'm not going to give up on the kid just yet. He could be your third baseman in the future, could be a future all-star to go along with that group of players that's got a bunch of all-stars added together. You want to give up on a season of those guys? You want to give up on a season of Ketel Marte in his prime? You want to give up one of the cheaper years on the Corbin Carroll extension? You just signed Geraldo Perdomo to a nice extension this past spring, right? These are the cheaper years of that deal. This is when you're going to have the most financial flexibility in many regards. And you want to just give that away? I'm sorry, I cannot do that. I am not giving away seasons. If Corbin Carroll was a free agent at the end of the year and he was 33, if Ketel Marte was at the tail end of his career, he had maybe 2 years left on his deal and he was 35, 36, perhaps we're having a different conversation because perhaps those guys are also getting moved and you are completely stripping it down. I'm going to have an all-star right fielder, an all-star second baseman, and oh, by the way, both of those guys can be MVP candidates. A potential all-star catcher should be an all-star shortstop. I've got 4 all-stars on my team to go along with a starter like Ryan Nelson, who I think we all believe in, a starter like Brandon Pfaadt, who I don't think any of us are ready to give up on yet. We want to see an offseason of tweaks, finish the year strong, make some adjustments to your arsenal. You can do that when you're a young pitcher. There's too much here to just say, yeah, you know what, 2027's our year. We're just going to give up on 2026. Why? So Ketel Marte can be a year older? So Corbin Carroll can be a year older? Nothing about 2027 is guaranteed. Nothing. You don't know if Ketel Marte is going to be the same player in 2027 that he is this year. Heck, I can't even know for sure he's going to be that player next season. I'm assuming. I feel like it's a pretty good assumption. You can't just give away seasons. Not in a sport like baseball when there's 162 games every year and you're asking a fan base to devote their time, their energy, their money to go to the ballpark, to watch the games on TV. You want to have money to reinvest into your team, right? You got to field a competitive team. So I will not accept those of you out there that are reprioritizing for 2027. I think you are unfairly looking at this roster. I think you are unfairly looking at the opportunity that is presented right now to this organization. 2025 doesn't have to be a complete disappointment. It can mostly be a disappointment because, yes, I want to be playing October baseball if I'm the Diamondbacks. I want the highest payroll in the history of the organization to have led to a playoff berth. Yes, I would have liked that. We all would have liked that. That's not the reality, though. But it doesn't all have to be a disappointment. It can be more. You can do something with this. All you have to do is trade the guys. I saw a story this morning on MLB trade rumors. Lourdes Gurriel is generating interest. I would trade his contract. That's money that you can free up. You've got 4 potential all-stars on your roster already. 4. To go along with some young pitchers, some flexibility in your roster, plus whatever young players you bring in. So I am not willing to punt on 2026, and so it is a failure if the only move this team makes between now and next Thursday is trading Eugenio Suarez, and I hope that Mike Hazen understands this. I think he does. I think he understands what this opportunity is. I think he views this more the way I view it than some of you view it. I think that's what we're going to see here over the next week. I think you're going to see a guy looking more towards 2026 and building a team that can be relevant. I don't want to say super competitive, but relevant. Not Chicago, not Pittsburgh, not Miami, not Washington, not Colorado. You can't do that. You've got too much talent on this team to do that. You have enough talent on this team to where if you can do just enough this offseason and do just enough right now here at the trade deadline, you can make those moves in the offseason and you can field a team that could potentially be a buyer at next year's deadline. Maybe, maybe not.
Let me ask you this question. We talked about it, honestly, in the morning meeting today. The Padres are shopping Dylan Cease, and the conversation was why. And we see it more in baseball now where you trade rentals, trying to get a few years of control. Is that something you would consider? A younger player at the big league level who is under a few years of team control so you could get 2-3 years for a Geno rental? Let's say Boston was interested in Geno. Let's say they're one of the 12 teams, and they're willing to give you one of their young outfielders they're not going to use. Is that something you'd be interested in?
I think it's hard, and we'll use the Dylan Cease example. I think it's hard to do things like that. You just were throwing darts at a dartboard. You're like, what if the Red Sox traded Jarren Duran for Dylan Cease because they need pitching? The Duran rumors just won't go away. What if they could do something like that? Those deals are always fun. They're great social media fodder. But this goes back to my principle. You don't make big splashes at the deadline. It's hard to do, right? And I think an example of the move that you're talking about, this organization did when they traded Jazz for Zach Allen. But at the time, that was prospect for prospect. And you can make those types of moves because those aren't big splashes. Those are prospect for prospect type moves. And so while, yes, I think creativity is useful this time of year, and creativity in general can get you out of some sticky situations, it's hard to do that. You're under a crunch. You have to get this stuff done by July 31st. And so if that type of deal presents itself, I think that would be intriguing and enticing to Mike Hazen. But I also think borderline or at baseline, he has to move these guys. These guys have to move. Naylor's got to go. Suarez has to go. One of the pitchers has to go. I think both pitchers have to go. Figure it out. Use openers every day. I don't care. Move both of those guys if they have value. If they're getting more than the qualifying offer compensatory pick, you need to move those guys. Gurriel could move. Maybe a team calls on a catcher. I don't know. Reliever.
But you find out. You make a move. No matter what, this team has to do what it has to make sure that they can get pieces for next year and the year after that. But then my question just, to me, makes sense of if I could add big league talent now that I could get control of, which I think is challenging to do because you're right, clock's ticking, you only have a week.
Well, and that's why, not to cut you off, but that's why one of our priorities when talking about what we want to see this team do, I've emphasized prospects that are close. Because I think that's your way of doing that. You want more, what you're saying is you want more of a known commodity, right? I want somebody who's maybe played a couple seasons in the bigs, not somebody who hypothetically is ready for the big leagues. I want to be able to go to their baseball reference page and see some numbers of them performing at the big league level, right?
Exactly.
I get that. But to me, I think the way you do this, because the other end of the spectrum is you get a bunch of lottery tickets. I think you go right down the middle and you get prospects that are really, really close. Because I think you get what you're looking for. You get those cost-controlled players. You're able to build a rotation that way if you emphasize pitching. And you get players that for one reason or another just haven't cracked the big league roster, but are right there ready, if not, should be in the big leagues, right? Chase Petty should probably be in the big leagues. The problem is Cincinnati doesn't have an opening in their rotation. They've got 2 guys on their injured list that should be in their rotation. So it's just a matter of, can they thread this needle if they chose to go this way of getting those players that are close, getting those players that everybody in baseball thinks, man, if a roster spot opens up, that person should be in the big leagues today. Can they do that? To me, I think they can. I think when we get done with this, if they trade all of the players that I think they're going to trade between now and next Thursday, I think we are talking about a team that got 2 or 3 players that could immediately play this season or at some point in 2026. And I think if you do that, you've gotten a jump start on the 2026 offseason before it's even happened. Helps Mike Hazen. What have I always said? You can't make big splashes at the deadline. You make big splashes in the offseason. You can't transform your entire roster in one offseason either. So you got to do a little bit now to save you some work on the back end of this offseason.